As a zoologist, we're very interested in understanding the diversity of life. So there's species that live in the oceans, in the trees, like the lemurs behind me, or there's predators that are very different animals with very different ways of living. One of the things that they have in common is their life cycle. And that's really, really important if you want to understand how their populations work. So one of the ways we looked at is to look at data across very different species and look at their different life cycle. And we found that one of the main ways they differ is how fast or slow they live. So some species are very fast-lived, so they have very short lifespans, they grow to maturity very, very quickly, and they reproduce quite quickly. And some species are very slow-lived, so they live for a long, long time, and they mature late. So basically they kind of reproduce over a kind of slow and steady wins the race type of strategy. So some species reproduce in one big bust, like a salmon, or in humans, for example, where we reproduce in a very narrow window. What we want to do is get a really big picture of these different life cycles across the span of the animal kingdom. So one of the big patterns we see in life cycles in animals is with regards to body size. Basically, small things tend to live a lot shorter than large things, and that makes sense. However, we see lots of animals which kind of break the trend, such as these fellas here, which even though they're only born 9 weeks ago and are quite small, can live over 40 years quite easily. So there's a huge diversity of ways animals can live, different ecologies, whether you're on the ground or in the ocean or can fly. And so one of the benefits of our analysis is you basically can create this map of life cycles and see what type of ecologies have what type of life cycles.
The other interesting thing that we found that's relevant to conservation is that there was a lot of variation in the timing of when reproduction happened through the lifespan of the animal species. And there was also variation in when mortality or death happened through the lifespan. So this means that between populations of the same species, there was variation in how often reproduction occurred. And this means that we may be able to increase the number of times that an animal reproduces, for example, because that's a variable trait within the species. So what this says to me is that there are opportunities for conservation to nudge populations of endangered species, like these beautiful Japanese cranes, by manipulating when they reproduce, how often they reproduce, and when mortality happens during their life cycle.